Let's bring in our panel. Kirsten Kukowski, the Deputy Communications Director and National Press Secretary for the Republican National Committee, who's Skyping in from Washington. And from Newsmax New York, Rick Ungar, co-host of Steele and Ungar. Kirsten, to you first. Ladies first. Mitt Romney closing out. Yes, ma'am. Mitt's trying to close out the argument, making the case for Republicans. Did he just open a can of worms with that discussion of, quote, immigration reform? That's going to anger a whole lot of people the Republicans are depending on in tomorrow's midterm, is it not?
Well, I don't think he opened a can of worms. I think that there has been a lot of rhetoric out of this White House, out of Joe Biden, out of this president, that now they're starting to throw around that word compromise, and they were trying to start signaling now that they know that their backs are against the wall and they're likely going to have to work with Republicans both in the House and the Senate if all goes well tomorrow night. That I do think that there's some level of wanting to come to the table and say, we're going to start making Washington work, because all these Democrats who are going to get beat tomorrow night, they have not made Washington work. What that exactly looks like, and if over time, if it's, can we actually trust this president on this issue? I think that that's a big question right now, but I do think there's a lot of conversation right now because of the way that the midterms are going over what this looks like.
Rick, Sarah Palin has been quoted saying that Mitt Romney is in never, never land when it comes to immigration reform. Your take on this internecine Republican warfare?
Well, my first is I really would love to hear from Kirsten the answer to the question. I heard a pretty good speech, but I don't know what she thinks about what Governor Romney said. I can tell you what I think about what he said. No, they're not going to be able to do that, because you've got all of these sides to the Republican Party. If you think it's been messy in the House, wait till you see it now. If the Republicans take the Senate, as I think they will, now you're really going to see a mess, particularly on this issue of immigration. So again, I'd love to hear if the RNC thinks that the Republicans are really going to bring forward a bill for the president to sign.
You want to take that on again, Kirsten?
Well, as I said before, I think a much bigger question has always been, can we actually trust?
Let's go with the smaller question.
Now, wait a minute, Rick. Let
no,
Kirsten answer the question.
That's a very fair question in response to your question. I understand what you're trying to do. Here's the deal, though. We have everyone. We have people who are protesting President Obama going to events like he did yesterday in Connecticut, protesting him because they don't trust him on immigration. How can we trust him on immigration? So I think there are a lot of questions, and I know that the administration wants to throw around this compromise word lately, but they're going to have a lot of work to do in the next couple of months if we're successful tomorrow night.
Yeah. Now,
Kirsten, was Governor Romney correct? I'm just curious, or was he wrong?
Look, I think there are a lot of people in this party who want to have a conversation about immigration. What that looks like, I think we still have, there are a lot of questions. But I think the bigger question is this president going to actually work with us, and can we trust him?
Well, reframing and defining this debate, part of what goes on in a campaign and a battle of ideas. Let me tell you what, when we only have 45 seconds left in this particular segment, it wouldn't do it justice. Let's come back. We're going to talk about a couple of specific Senate races and some of the things that have been said by retiring senators, and we'll hear what Kirsten Kukowski and Rick Ungar have to say about Iowa, Kentucky, and we'll run the gamut on this election eve edition of America's Forum. Your take on what Mitt Romney said. Does it help the Republican Party to talk about, quote, immigration reform on the eve of this midterm election? Why don't you tweet me your comments at Newsmax TV, #America's Forum, and we'll be right back.